Hello and good evening. Welcome to the shir of the Spermicius, the story of the Burgher and the Pauper. So, without further ado, let's get into the text and see what's going on there. So, last we heard the murderer, the pirate, kidnapped the daughter of the emperor, put her in a sackcloth, dressed one of his sailors with her clothing, veiled his face, pushed him out, and go, he said. The sailor did not know what was happening to him. As soon as he emerged with his face covered, the soldiers, not realizing who he was, immediately began escorting him. They thought he was the emperor's daughter. And the sailor went along with the troops wherever they led him. He had no idea where he was. And so he came to Emperor's daughter's room where his face was uncovered. They realized that he was a sailor. There was a great uproar, and the sailor's face was slapped very well, and he was thrown out since he was not guilty, for he knew nothing. So that is one Nakuda, which I believe we started speaking about last week, but maybe we'll touch about it again today. Let's go on with the story. Having captured the emperor's daughter, the pirate knew for certain that he would be pursued. He left the ship and hid himself together with her in it should be in a pool full of rainwater until in a pit, full of rainwater until the uproar would subside. He ordered his sailor to cut anchor and flee immediately, since they would suddenly be pursued. They would surely not fire on the ship, since it would be seen that the emperor's daughter was on board. But they will pursue you, therefore you must flee immediately, he said. If they catch you, so what? Like all pirates, he paid no heed for his own welfare. They were wanton. And it happened as he predicted. There was a great outcry, and they were immediately chased, but did not find the princess there. The pirate hid himself along with her in the pit of rainwater, and they remained there, and he threatened her so she should not cry out, so that people would not hear her. Thus he said to her, I risked my life for your sake, so I should capture you. If I should then lose you again, then my life is not worth anything to me. Since you're already in my hands, if I should lose you again, and should you be taken away from me, then my life would be nothing to me. Therefore, as soon as you scream out, I will immediately strangle you. And whatever happens to me will happen, since I do not consider my life worth anything. Now, she was mortally afraid, the emperor's daughter, who was lying with the pirate in the pit, was afraid to scream because of his threat. And afterwards, he left that place with her brother to a city. And they traveled and traveled until they came to a place where the murderer realized that people were searching for him. And he hid himself together with her again, this time in the ritual bath. And afterwards, he also left that place and came to another place, and there was also hid with a different kind of water. Thus he hid with her every time in a different type of water until he hid within all the 7 kinds of water that the Burgher had hidden in with her mother, which constitutes the 7 witnesses, etc. And finally he came with her to the sea, and he tried to find at least a shipperman boat so that he could cross with her. He found the ship. They took the emperor's daughter. So he had no personal need for her because he was a eunuch, but he wanted to sell her to a king. He was apprehensive that someone might try to take her from him by force. So he therefore dressed her in the sailor's clothing, so she looked like a man. And the pirate traveled with her on the sea. So we see two things here. First of all, about the sailor. We touched upon this point once before when we said that the sailor himself didn't know what was going on. So what does it mean he didn't know what was going on? He knew was they put this clothing on him and was told to go. But spiritually, what it means is that he was disguised as the source, the residence of the Shekhinah. What people do, what this Samach Mem does, he takes the real Shekhinah, which is you and me, obviously the Tzaddik Emes, and he substitutes for somebody who is a sailor. A sailor is somebody who sells the seas, the Siyam HaChochma, could be El Chayid, could be a learned Jew, it could be even a tzaddik. And they say he's the Rebbe. And people follow him. It's only lost in Lavoy when the veil is taken off that people see that he's not a tzaddik emes. He's not really a tzaddik. Rabbeinu says in Torah, I think some Chalav, I'm not sure, that the Rebbes themselves, those that are not worthy, he says they're not so. It's not their blame. I mean, it's a taiva, to be the boss man, to be the number one. Everybody gives you cover, everybody whatever. So especially when people grow up in houses where the father is a rebbe and the grandfather is a rebbe, they're being treated that way, and so they figured, why not? It'd be very rare, that there would be these famous people that are not worthy. They're not the tzaddik emes. They're not the one that can save you. It's very rare that chas v'chalila that they're shoyim or chas v'chalila. They're other people. Some tzaddikim and some very important people. It's not a small thing. It's one of the common mistakes, among some Breslov Hasidim that anybody who's a rebbe anywhere else, is what they call mefusim shel sheker. There are, big tzaddikim amongst them, and very choshev yidden. It's just the real tzaddik, they're not. This. So there was a story with one of the Breslovers in Poland before the Second World War, that he decided, he was a young man, was getting married, he decided he's going to take his wife and children and is going to go to Eretz Yisrael. Now, at the time, in order to get a certificate to be able to get into Israel, the British demanded that you have 1,000 pounds sterling in your possession. Now, that was a lot of money. It was a serious amount of money. So this Yidi, he kept on putting together one penny to another. It took him like 3 years to put together the money. And he spoke to his father. Now, his father was a gabbai by one of the rebbes over there in Poland at that time. So his father said, I'm going to go with you. And he sold his possessions. He has a store. He didn't reorder more stock. He just sold everything. He need to have enough money that she'll be able to go. So the people wondered, what's happening? Have any new stock in the store or whatever. So he said, I'm going to Eretz Yisrael. So they told the Rebbe that he was the Gabbai of, he's going to Eretz Yisrael. Now, this particular Rebbe was against people going to Eretz Yisrael because of the Zionists in Eretz Yisrael. And he called him and he forbade him to go. Okay, so he says not to go. So he ordered again. And when he told his son, the Rebbe said you should not go, whatever. The son was a wrestler. And when the son was ready to leave, the leader of the Breslov Hasidim in Poland was a Yitzhak Breiter, Hashem Yikom Damo Zecher Tzaddik Kodesh Livracha. So the father told Rabbi Yitzhak Breiter, you see, that's a problem with you, Breslovers. You don't have who to ask. We have a Rebbe, we ask him, we know what to do. You don't have to ask. Go, not to go. So Mr. Breiter asked him, how do you know who's the Rebbe that can give you answers? So the father said an answer that I heard later on also from somebody. He says, if a bunch of Yidden get together and they point someone to be the Rebbe, that he's the Rebbe. Gets out of the Shmaya or whatever. So Yitzhak Breiter looked at him very seriously and he said, this is not right. The Jews don't make the Rebbe. It's the Rebbe that make the Jews. He's the one that makes the Jews. He's making for Jews. Himself, he left, actually the train left on Tisha B'Av. Yitzhak Breiter, without the rest of Hasidim, came to welcome him. And he said that, means that Tisha B'Av, they can dance, somebody's going to Eretz Yisrael. He said, so we'll dance in our minds. And he left and reached Eretz Yisrael. And this man's father, his mother, his wife's father and mother, and the rest of them that stayed there, and the Rebbe, and all this, they were all perished in the Holocaust. You can't just follow somebody and say he's the Rebbe because everybody's following him, so he's the Rebbe. Because we follow him, he's the Rebbe. And then because, how do you know he's a Rebbe? Because we're following him. I mean, it's I said that in fact, if you see here in this story that the daughter of the emperor herself, Kivyochel, she herself also had a little gum of Emilas Chachamim. Because when her bridegroom came to her himself and told her she should investigate it and should have a muna until, not just say this, I don't care, unless you show me my own handwriting. Because now you see that everything that happened to him and everything that happened to our mother now happened to her. If you remember, he was sentenced to die, to be put in a sack and thrown to the sea. Now she was put in the sack. And the same way that her mother, when she went with the Burghers, with the Burgher, and she escaped from the general, from the general. They went into 7 places of water that were all testimony. That the daughter of the emperor belonged to the daughter of the Burgher. So she now had to go through all these places. All that places that were taken as testimonies, as witnesses. And the threat of the murder is, don't cry out. If you cry out, I'll kill you. You can surely understand, how scary it is. I mean, he's a murderer, he's a killer. What is the meaning? She could have davened. He didn't see what was going on with her, what was doing. Maybe she couldn't call out, screaming, we can scream in your head. There is certain terror that the Sitra Achra terrorizes a person and tells him, if you go too much towards the Kedusha, if you disregard this world, and go towards the Kedusha, I'll kill you. People are either I'll kill you, or the Kodesh Baruch Hu is makpid with tzaddikim like a hairbreadth, like a chut hasara. Don't start up. Don't get too much into it, because you'll end up suffering. As there's no bigger shtus than that. We're not staying in this world. Zat Hashem, we'll all have long life and everything, and health, everything. But we're not staying here. And even it says that Kodesh Baruch Hu is vatran. Kodesh Baruch Hu just drops the charges. Listlessness. Okay. Somebody's he says, if his stomach will be cut to shimmer up. And so Kodesh Baruch Hu does not give up on anything. Kodesh Baruch Hu is actively a Rachaman. Yes. This is the main Indian why we need to come to Hashem's Baruch and to ask Him for His forgiveness for Rosh Hashanah. This is, I mean, Rosh Hashanah is all about crowning a Kodesh Baruch Hu. And the biggest expression of authority of the Melech is to forgive sins and transgressions. Because only a king can do that. This is what we learned in Likutei Moharan to Chav Zayin. Tomorrow night we'll get back to them. The 13 midas of Rachamim. There's the 9 midas of Rachamim, which is in Zeir Anpin, it's within the law. Then there is the 13 midas of Rachamim. We're saying in Slichus, Yom Kippur is full with them. Because that's the Caesar, that's the emperor. He's above the law. He's above the law. So the thing is that we are, hold on just a second. He is the one who makes the law. He's not underneath the law. The act of coronation of Hashem Yisbarach requires, as it were, entails us. We say, En melech belo am. There's no king without a nation. I mean, even that pirate had his own pirates, who were doing his bidding. Because Baruch doesn't really want to be such a king. A king over pirates, a king over people with affairs. I mean, if it is the kingdom that makes the king into a king, obviously it is the type of people that make the king. The king of great people is a far greater king. The king of pirates is just a pirate. So the act of coronation, of crowning Kadosh Baruch Hu, is the actual act of asking for mechila, of doing tshuva. So the kavod of the Melech. The point is that now before the daughter of the emperor, which is each and every one of us, thought, well, you want to be my Rebbe, you want to be my Rebbe, I don't know, I want proof for this, I want proof for that, I want proof for this, I want proof for that. Now she has gone through the 7 places of water the same way that her mother did. The same 7 types of waters, which represent hardships and inconveniences and problems, trials, tribulations. By her mother being the Burgher, the tzaddik emes was with her, those 7 waters were the tikkun. Now, being that she did not believe in the tzaddik, when he told her, this is who I am, she had to go through the seven waters. Now she realizes, now we all realize that we can't without the tzaddik. We can't. We can't do it without it. We can't be picky and say, listen, I'll do it on my own, if I like it, and if I don't like it. No such thing. It doesn't work that way. This whole Indian. I mean, all these places bore witness because himself she's been taken to her intended, and we'll see how these things, Bezat Hashem, transpire. But it's like there's an application of smartphones called Waze that shows you which way to go places, and when it tells you to turn, you don't turn. What does it do? It just recalculates the route. So now you have to go through. It never gives up on you. Never gives up on you. You just have longer to go. I'll get you to where you need to go. The chisaron of Emunas Tzadikim to begin with, because to say that nobody is a tzaddik emes because I found fault with all the other ones is in itself a chisaron of Emunas Tzadikim. They say that Reb Chaim Volozhin, Zer Tzaddik Kodesh Livrocha, was very close to Reb Yitzchak of Berditchev, even though he was the talmid of the Goen and those of Berditchev and the Berditchev. So he once asked the Berditchev Rav, how can you tell me that the derech of the Hasidus is the derech emes? Look at all the fakers that make themselves as if they're rebbes and they can do and they can whatever it is, and it's baloney. So the Berditchev Rav answered him, the fakers are mimicking someone. They're mimicking the real thing. Otherwise, people wouldn't be faked out. So Chaim Volozhin said that's the best answer he's ever gotten to this. There is a true tzaddik. It's a big rachmanis. Don't accept the first time he calls you. And sometimes the rachmanis have to go through all kinds of trials and tribulations. And I want, and I don't want, and I dare, and I don't dare, and I'm afraid, and I'm not afraid, and I'm thinking, and then I'm scream, at least in your mind, I do not want to be led. I do not want to compromise. I want to get the full tikkun. I want to get the full tikkun. We can't listen to situations. Just don't cry. Don't call out. It's said about the Rebbe of the Melech and his brother, the Rebbe of Zisha, when they went on an exile. So they got to a certain country where, if it was Germany or whatever, the Sitra Achra said to them, you are not going to cross this border. If you're going to cross this border, I'm going to go against you with everything like that. So they answered him, you're going to get against us with everything you got, no matter what we do. We're going to go where we want to go. We are all fine Jews, we're edel, and when somebody comes and said, don't move, I'll beat you up. Okay. Mm. Remember when Nosson was in jail, he was in a room with murderers. He took him. So when they saw, fresh meat here, so they got up to, to harm him. And Reb Nosson screamed out. When he screamed out, the jailers came and they took him and they put him in a different cell. How what? He wasn't afraid. He was screaming, they're going to beat him up, whatever. First of all, you scream. We got to scream. We got to scream. Every person needs to have the Yishuv Adas to know, I must scream. I'm afraid, I'm terrorized, whatever it is, but I must scream. I'll talk to Kishbach, I'll tell him everything. I'll tell him all my drawbacks. I'll tell him all the things I'm afraid of. I'll tell him all my fears, all my phobias, all my whatever it is. But scream, call out. B'ezrat Hashem, tomorrow we will learn Likutei Moharan instead of Wednesday night, being in Mitzvah Hashem Wednesday night. We're traveling in Mitzvah Hashem. So I want to thank you for being here tonight. And B'ezrat Hashem, I'll see you tomorrow at the same time. I will send you the link, but it's the same link, that every Likutei Moharan shir has. It's the same password of 148. So Kol Tuv Ksiva Teva Nagid Ki Ben Shtiyot to you.